Say tricks.
Our super, Glacial Quake, is great for ad clear and boss damage. There's no reason to reserve it until the right moment because we will be able to get it back quickly due to a combination of factors. Our class ability will be replaced by our exotic armor. For now, keep in mind that no matter which barricade you choose, our exotic armor will override the cooldown to be the same as Towering Barricade at 70 seconds. You can technically use any grenade you want, but since this build makes heavy use of stasis shatters, the Glacier Grenade makes the most sense. It also plays well into the over-the-top defensive theme we have going by being a source of on-demand cover that can then be shattered with our melee or weapons. Tectonic Harvest spawns a small stasis shard when we shatter stasis crystals or frozen enemies. Stasis shards grant us melee energy when picked up, 10% for small shards and 50% from large shards. However, with Tectonic Harvest, they will also heal us and grant us frost armor. Small shards will give us 1 stack of frost armor, while large shards will give us 3 stacks. Diamond Lance was chosen primarily for the 3 fragment slots that it grants, but the Stasis Lance is a formidable tool, and you will be generating an insane amount of them. It will get to the point where you will likely stop using half of them and instruct your teammates to make use of them.
Feel free to grab any of those balls on the ground. I don't mind if you guys play with my balls.
That said, a Stasis Lance will be created whenever we get a Stasis weapon kill, a Stasis ability kill, or a Shatter kill. There are 2 different attacks you can perform with the Stasis Lance. Pulling your trigger or clicking your mouse will throw the lance and freeze enemies within 5 meters of the impact and deal 150 damage. You can also throw the lance into a stasis crystal to shatter them. Using your melee with the lance will slam the lance into the ground and freeze enemies within 8 meters and deal 200 damage, while also granting 2 stacks of frost armor to us and our allies. By default, frost armor maxes out at 5 stacks, with each stack lasting 9 seconds. Each stack grants 4.5% damage resist up to 22.5% at 5 stacks. Whisper of Rhyme will enable us to have a max of 8 stacks that will now last for 13 seconds each. At 8 stacks of frost armor, we will have 36% damage resist. While our frost armor is active, Whisper of Chains uses a progress counter to track our kills and creates a small stasis shard when we reach 100%. Rank and file enemies are 34%, elites and guardians are 67%, and mini bosses and bosses are 100%. Whisper of Shards will boost our grenade regeneration by 500% for 6 seconds when we shatter a stasis crystal. Subsequent crystal shatters will refresh the buff up to a maximum of 11 seconds. Whisper of Fissures improves our shatters by granting them an additional damage instance of 25 damage and a blast radius of 10 meters. 25 damage may not seem like much, but it adds up quick when you have a group of a dozen frozen enemies. The increased blast radius also makes it that much easier to chain your shatters. Whisper of Conduction will pull any stasis shard within 15 meters to us while also granting us 10 points to resilience and intellect. We will be using the exotic gauntlet's Icefall Mantle. Icefall Mantle requires a stasis super to be equipped. While a stasis super is equipped, rapid stasis kills will grant us a stack of frost armor that will also give us 10 health. Icefall Mantle also replaces our class ability with Glacial Guard. When Glacial Guard is cast, it grants us maximum frost armor stacks and freezes nearby enemies. Ruinous Effigy is an exotic void trace rifle that turns your enemies into transmutation spheres. Magical Balls of Destruction and Damage Resistance. The ball has a light attack that lunges you forward and deals 300 damage, and a heavy attack that slams the ball into the ground for 1500 damage while also suppressing enemies caught in the blast. But we are primarily using it for its guard ability. Guarding with a transmutation sphere creates a draining field around us. This field does a lot for us. Enemies inside the field will receive 30 damage every third of a second and become disoriented. As they take damage, we will be healed by roughly 5 health per damage tick. On top of that, the draining field also grants us 80% damage resist as long as we are guarding. This, stacked with our 36% damage resist from max stacks of frost armor, will grant us a total of 87.2% damage resistance. Remember to watch your ammo, because when it runs out, the orb will begin consuming your health until you are no more. For our primary, we will be using the Stasis Scout Rifle Live Fire with Headstone and Rhyme Stealer. Honestly, you are going to be using Ruinous Effigy almost the entire time you run this build. I just think this combination of perks is fun because of the synergy it brings to the table. If you get a precision kill, the Headstone will create a Stasis Crystal. If you then shoot that crystal with this Scout Rifle, you will get a stack of Frost Armor, and 2 stacks if you enhance the perk like mine. If you don't want to run the Scout, but think the perk combo is cool, there are several other weapons that can roll with the combo. Archon's Thunder, Stay Frosty from the current Dawning event. Side note, this is pretty much the only pulse I use in PvP. Not with this perk combo, but if you get one with Desperado and Killing Wind, chef's kiss. Red Tape. And then, finally, we have this Stasis hand cannon that I'm not even gonna try to pronounce. Exuvi? I lied.
Exuvi.
Well, I'll be damned. For our heavy, I decided to run my retrofit escapade with target lock and 4th times the charm, but your favorite void heavy will do just fine. We just want it to be void so that it can benefit from some of our armor mods. For our armor stats, we are prioritizing resilience, intellect, and discipline in that order. Then try to pump in as much recovery as you can muster. Mobility and strength don't matter. If you can get 100 discipline, then that's great, but I wanted more recovery, so I stopped at 70. On our helmet, we have 1 Void Siphon so that our Void weapons, primarily Ruinous Effigy, will print orbs. Then 1 Special Ammo Finder to make sure we always have ammo for Ruinous Effigy. On our arms, we have 1 optional Void Loader and 1 Font of Focus to bring our discipline up to 100 while we have armor charge. On our chest, we are stacking 3 Void Reserves so that we can carry all that ammo that we will be finding. Feel free to swap one of these for a resist mod if the situation calls for it. I don't think you're going to need them, but we probably don't need all 3 of these at all times either. So on our legs, we have 1 Orbs of Restoration for 10% energy to our lowest ability on orb pickups, 1 Absolution so that those same orbs grant all 3 abilities 5% energy, then 1 Recuperation so our orbs heal us for 70 health. On our class item, we have 1 Bomber for 12% grenade energy whenever we cast Glacial Guard, 1 Distribution for 4% ability energy and 2% super energy when we cast Glacial Guard within 15 meters of an enemy, and 1 Powerful Attraction so that Glacial Guard will grab any orbs within 12.5 meters. Everything about the build thus far has been evergreen, but we do have some really good artifact mods this episode that deserve honorable mentions. 1 with Frost grants increased reload and stability to your stasis weapons while you have frost armor. Crystalline Converter helps us spawn even more stasis crystals by having our stasis shards charge up a meter that when full will cause our next powered melee hit to spawn a crystal. Armor of Aramis causes us to emit a freezing burst whenever we are critical while having frost armor. It won't trigger that often with our setup, but when it does, you'll be like, damn, how'd I survive that? Hail the Storm makes our stasis crystals release ice shards that damage and slow targets. This one, chef's kiss. Brain Freeze will make our frozen enemies emit a chilling fog that will slow their buddies who haven't been frozen yet. Finally, Served Cold will make our stasis shards grant us class ability energy. When entering combat, begin by casting Glacial Guard to get 8 stacks of frost armor for 36% damage resistance. Then get a few kills with Ruinous Effigy to spawn an orb and create a transmutation sphere. Then grab the orb and the sphere. The orb will boost our discipline to 100, and now we can thrust ourselves into a group of enemies and guard with our transmutation sphere. We now have a total of 87.2% damage resistance. The sphere will consume our enemies within the bubble and heal us while it does. Then, just before the sphere runs out of ammo, slam that bad boy into the ground for some big transmutated damage. Then, rinse and repeat. During boss phases, start by casting your super. This is where most of our boss damage will come from, but you need to be mindful about how you do this. You can't be too close to the boss or all of your crystals will just go behind them. So distance yourself a bit, just enough so the boss will be in the center of your crystals. Then let them have it. When your super runs out, switch to your heavy and empty it into the boss. This is where our Void Loader comes into play. Once that is empty, you can finish up with Ruinous Effigy. Thanks for watching. Have a good one, y'all.